K25 showed me a self that is of a past life or a parallel life to this one. And in this past life or parallel life, the world was different. There was one major city and all other cities went down. Well, that's what the government told us. But the other cities, they broke free from the government control. And the government was different. The government were aliens, basically. And they were controlling us for their own agenda. And the other cities around the whole world, they broke free. But they told us in our small city that had this big old wall around the entire city that those people were dead. That human created enough violence where the whole entire world went to its destruction. So they gave us these bracelets, which has electric pulses in it that controls us. It's our form of money exchange. We wear these bracelets and it tells us who we are, how much we have, what do we do, our qualification level, our education level. It told us basically everything about who we are, our ideologies, our status quo. So with this, no one could do anything wrong because the government knew exactly where everyone was at any given time. They knew exactly what everybody was doing. They had computers overseeing exactly every single person. You couldn't interact with certain people because of past history of maybe fights or arguments. There was no arguments. It was a peaceful society, but it was a forced peaceful society. It was not natural. It was a peaceful society because people were terrified of basically being killed by these government people. So I was a very young person. I was about maybe 14, and I was going to this camp, which was somewhat felt like it was underground. And the city, there was a lot of destruction to it. So the walls looked like they were undergo like war. There was a lot of war feeling to this city. It looked like it was kind of half new and then half destroyed. They were rebuilding it, but a lot of it was destroyed. So I went to this underground sort of facility where they took a lot of the young people to figure out who the young people will be. Will they be farmers? Will they be in the military? Will they be in teachers in a form of intellectual field? And they decided I would be a farmer because my scoring went up very high on the creative level, the creativity. And they needed creativity to really help with the farming because farming somehow wasn't really doing too well, and they needed scientists to figure out a new technique for farming that the government people, they had no clue. They had no clue about the soil, about anything regarding farming. So they did that also because my family have a lineage of farmers, particularly farmers that created a new technique that helped with the agriculture community. In a world, it got very hot during the day, so you couldn't go out at 1 p.m. There was a time period from maybe 11 to 3 or 4 o'clock. You couldn't go outside. Everybody was indoors, and the windows were tinted dark because the heat was so hot. It was so hot. It was unbearable. And also the air, it felt very dry. And because there wasn't a lot of trees around, I've noticed that. There wasn't a lot of trees. We lived almost like in this very hot, dry, almost deserty sort of feeling. There was no forest or jungles or anything like that. There was a river that ran through the city that was pure drinking water that had a filtration system at the beginning of it, so anything toxic got into it, it would clean it out. So we would drink from the river and to clean everything out, and had a bottom that had like crystals, and the crystals would clean out the water as well. So the government people, they lived underground. They lived underground in a very complex facility that went deep underground, and they were controlling us, and we didn't know why. They were terrified of an uprising, and we didn't know why. So basically, I was being watched because in my scoring I had a very rebellion scoring, and I didn't know how I got a rebellion scoring, but they just said that I had this rebellion leadership nature, and they were trying to watch over any potential leader. So if you had a leader thing in your zodiac chart, they looked at astrology too. If you had a leader, they would basically watch you day and night. They would have people, men, that looked like humans but actually aliens, and they would watch you because they knew you, in your astrology chart, you had a leadership, a very strong leadership quality. So basically what I did is, my friend Tom and I, who also was a leader, and we were together, we weren't allowed to be together because we both had leadership qualities in our chart. So something happened where I discovered that the government people were not humans, they were actually aliens, and something happened where they changed faces, and I saw it. They did it in front of me while I was kind of sneaking around in the back where I wasn't supposed to be. And I saw it, and they tried to basically shoot me on the site, and I ran, and I found Tom, who happened to, he saw what I saw because he was being rebellious and doing things he wasn't supposed to do, and he found this weaponry thing when he took off his bracelet and he unplugged this thing that was in his skin. It's almost like a worm or something, like a worm that was inside of his skin. When he took it out, that was kind of swimming in his arm, that he didn't know, but he saw on a computer screen that was there. He saw on a computer screen what the bracelet was doing to people, and basically it was depleting people more so than controlling them. It was depleting people of keeping them unawakened. So what he did, when he unplugged it, he had all these abilities and these gifts of just mind power, telekinesis, telepathic. He could see all of the world in an instant. He even had this intuitive feeling that nobody had really intuitive psychic feelings, because they took that away from him by draining them. They were using the people, I feel, for a lot of it. There was a lot of mining going on for materials such as gold and diamonds. They were particularly very interested in a diamond, but it was a different diamond. It was a very rare diamond. It was very deep underground in this very cave system. It was very precious to them. It almost like they were very obsessed with having it, because I think it was their source of power, because they always wore like these diamond crystal looking necklaces or jewelry, and I feel like it was powering them. It was powering them and their people, I guess, in the stars, because they would have them shipped to beyond the wall, and they said that beyond the wall was just nothing but dead things, so we didn't understand where they were taking these things, but I later found out they were taking them on a spaceship, and they were leaving the planet to their own civilization that was very weak, because they used up all their power source, because after 200 years of using the crystal diamond, it weakens, and it basically it crumbles and, goes away. So I was rebelling against the people, the alien people. So what happened is, me and Tom, we were basically wanted by this because we knew a lot. He saw the computer screen that saw what the bracelets were doing to people, draining them, helping them to forget any sort of ability they had. And what I saw was the actual physical appearance of these people. So we ran for the hills. We got out of our underground academy. I don't know how we got out. We got out through like a tunnel system, like a tunnel system that's not used, much, so we found ourselves out, and we needed to find a person that could take off my bracelet and take out the worm so they could find me, because they knew exactly where I was. So Tom went back into the tunnels because he knew psychically, after having the worm taken out, he was very psychic, what he needed to do, and he needed to find some information to give to the people. And there was about 400,000 people in this. No, it could have been more. It could have been like 1,000,000 people in this major city. This major city, that was the last. There was only 4 more major cities around the world that were under control of these alien people, and the outsiders were trying to help. The free people were trying to help, but they were not really helping, because there was nothing that really showed me in the dream that they were influencing us in a positive direction, because I didn't even hear of any sort of free people. So he went back into the tunnels, deep into the ground, to get information, now that he had power, so he could lift things, he could defend himself without guns or anything. So he told me to go to this psychic lady that was my friend, and she would protect me. She was kind of a secret psychic lady. She was one of the strong ones that took off her watch and the worm on her own. She knew it was not good. And she had a small community there of children, maybe about 5 or 6 children there. They were very underground. They were secret. They were kept secret by people in this little house. They lived in the basement. And when I went there, I had basically the alien government military on my back, so I was very quick. And she took it off, and she couldn't find the worm because the aliens people came, and I had to leave. I had to leave very quickly out of this basement, this very secret basement house, like what they did with African Americans, with the white people, hiding them into these secret little spaces. So I couldn't get the worm out, so the worm was draining me, it was depleting me. So I didn't have this feeling of intuition or psychic or any sort of ability that Tom had, or the other people had when the worm was taken out. So I went to the guns place, the man with the big guns who lived outside of the city, right near the wall, on this hill, this mansion, very, very rich, had a daughter that was about 7, and his wife was killed for being a rebellion. Very shocking. But he actually gave me the guns. He had a whole entire room, the size of my apartment, of guns. And I took some of them, and he showed me a little bit how to shoot guns, because I needed them. So I met somebody who was going to help me. It was another guy. I don't know how I met him. And he was a sort of rebellion. So he was going to help me. And basically the message of the dream was that these alien people, has to do with something else besides the dream. And that has to do with these alien people. They wanted to kill a parallel self that they saw as weaker. The self that was in a lower dimension, a reality, who didn't have a lot of remembrance of herself. So she was weaker, you could say, to the other parallel self, who was very strong, a warrior, very strong, remembered everything, remembered all her abilities. And this self was kind of like the self in this world, who was very just living day by day in a society, and not really having the full power that she had in that other lifetime. So they were trying to kill that version of myself that's in this reality, and that version of myself had no clue what was going on. She didn't know why these aliens were after her, and they were trying to kill her. And the government in this reality, which actually was the past reality of that world, the government was actually good. There was people trying to help. They were trying to help. They didn't understand what was going on, but they just knew that these beings that were they looked like humans in black suits, were trying to get after me. So that was very interesting, because they thought that if they could kill the version in me, this version of me in this lifetime, it would create enough sort of haste, or it would create like a shock that it would somehow influence the me in that future life. It would make me weaker by having the me in this life be killed by it. They think it would like weaken me, weaken my strength or my courage or bravery or something. So that's why they were trying to do that in this lifetime. To the me in this one, and this past parallel life to that life that was happening in the future tense.